Dear students, in this lecture video, we studied about the substation equipment continuation. Here we studied the continuation of high voltage circuit breakers. The previous lecture video, we studied about the oil circuit breakers and classifications, and then vacuum circuit breaker. In this lecture video, we studied about the Sf6, that is sulfur hexafluoride circuit breakers and air brake circuit breakers. And what is the conclusion of the, finally we studied about the conclusion of circuit breakers and risk factors of the each type of circuit breakers. Students, now you see the sulfur hexafluoride, that is Sf6 circuit breakers, circuit diagram. You see, this is the circuit breaker in the closed position. This is the pre-compression position of the sulfur hexafluoride, both ends. See, this is the closed position, what? This is the fixed contact. Okay, this is also fixed contact. And then this is the vent, this is the cylinder, this is the piston, this is the contact bridge only. Okay, so here you can see this is the in the closed position. You see this is closed. Okay, it's very closed. This is also closed only. Okay, but you see in the pre-compression position, you see this means here this is the compared to this one, compared to this position, you see this is the open only. So here you see this is the contact bridge here. That means what? This is a here closed one here, but is the open only is there. This is the difference between the closed position and pre-compression position of the sulfur hexafluoride. Now we detailed in the next slide onwards, we detailed studied what is the working function of the sulfur hexafluoride, and then advantages and then disadvantages of the sulfur hexafluoride circuit breaker. Okay, you see how the arc coincidence happened between the moving contact and the fixed contact. So therefore this diagram represents the interrupter unit of the Sf6 circuit breaker. Okay, you see from this you can easily, from this diagram you can easily understand the working function of the Sf6. Okay, so this is the Sf6 gas only. Okay, this is the ash color, this is the moving contact. Okay, and then this is the fixed contact. Okay, then this is the moving chamber. This is the moving chamber only. This is the insulating rod. This is the handle. This is the insulating rod for moving operated member only. This is these two. Okay, so this is the Sf6 gas inlet and all. This is the arcing horn only. Okay, you see this is the fixed contact. This is the moving contact. So the in between only the arc formed. That is the like the red color dotted line is there. No, that is called as the arc only. Okay, so in between what medium is there? The Sf6 gas only is there. Okay, so this is the how the arc that means produced between the fixed contact and moving contact only. Okay, now you see this is the important, that means technical points. Okay, of the Sf6 circuit breakers. Okay, the sulfur hexafluoride Sf6 gas is an alternative to air, is the interrupting medium. The Sf6 only can be used as a interrupt medium in the Sf6 circuit breaker. The Sf6 the gas is nothing but the colorless non-toxic gas only. It has good thermal conductivity. It has good density. That means the 5 times that of the air. The density of the Sf6 compared to air means 5 times the air density. And then what is the principle of operation is similar to air blast breaker, circuit breaker, that is air brake circuit breakers. So, but the Sf6 gas is not discharged into the atmosphere. This is the important technical point. The Sf6 circuit breaker, like the Sf6 gas only is used for that means extinguishing the arc between the moving conduct and fixed conduct. The SF6 gas has a great arc extinguishing property, and then it is also superior compared to other arc medium, that is oil or air. Oil is used as a arc extinguishing medium, that means in the oil circuit breaker. Air is used as a arc coincident medium in the air circuit breaker, and then vacuum is used as a arc coincident medium in the vacuum circuit breaker. But compared to oil, air, and then vacuum arc coincident media, the SF6 gas only, that means superior compared to other type of arc coincident media which are used in the other type of circuit breakers. The SF6 gas is used as a arc coincident medium in the SF6 circuit breakers. The continuation of the function of the SF6 circuit breaker, 138 kV to 230 kV. Student, you keep it, remember, don't confuse it. Oil is 11 kV to 765, vacuum is 3.3 to 33, but the SF6 is equal to 138 kV to 230 kV. Nowadays and all, for high voltage we are using SF6 only. And then it contains arc interruption chamber, we already seen in the circuit diagram. Okay, in the closed position of the circuit breaker, what the contacts remain surrounded by the SF6 gas. The pressure is 2.8 kg per centimeter squared. But during opening the high pressure, that time the SF6 gas pressure is nothing but how much? 14 kg per centimeter square. You see, in the closed position, the pressure of the SF6 gas is 2.8 kg per meter squared only. Okay, 2.8 kg per meter squared only. But during the opening time, the pressure is 14 kg per meter squared only. The SF6 absorbs free electrons in the arc. The current is nothing but what? Movement of the electron or the arc produced between the moving conduct. That means fixed conduct to movable conduct. So therefore, the free observe the free electrons in the arc path to form immobile negative ions to build up the high dielectric strength. Okay, and then the SF6 is also used as a cooling purpose for cool the arc and extinguishes it. Okay, and then after the operation, the valve, that means is closed by the action of the set of the springs only. So therefore, the absorbent material are used to absorb the byproduct and moisture. This is the important technical points about SF6 circuit breaker. Now we studied about the advantages and disadvantages of SF6 circuit breaker. First, advantages: very short arcing period compared to other arc coinciding property, that is oil and then air and then vacuum, any medium. Okay, then it can interrupt much larger current compared to other types of the circuit breaker. No risk of fire because SF6 gas only is used as a arc coinciding medium, and then low maintenance cost, light foundation only, and then no over voltage problem occurs in the SF6 circuit breaker. Okay, what is the disadvantages? Means there are no carbon deposit, and then the SF6 that is costly, because the cost of SF6 gas. Okay, the SF6 gas has to be reconditioned after every operation of the circuit breaker. The additional equipment is required for this purpose. This is the disadvantages of SF6 circuit breaker, that is sulfur hexafluoride. Then S denoted for sulfur, F that means hexa, F for fluoride, hexa means 6. So therefore the SF6 is nothing but sulfur hexafluoride. Okay, then next we studied about the that means air brake circuit breakers, or that means air blast circuit breaker, same. The air circuit breakers, that means is used for high velocity. Okay, the high velocity blast air only is used in the air blast circuit breaker. The air blast circuit breaker is classified into two types. One is axial blast circuit breaker and then grass blast circuit breaker, because the flow of the blast of air. The air blast circuit breaker consists of blast valve, blast tube and then contact. The blast valve contains the air, it has high pressure. Similarly, the blast tube also carry the high pressure air, but it opens the moving contact attached to the spring only. Here there is no carbonization of the surface compared to vacuum circuit breaker. And then the air circuit breaker kept clean and then dry to operate properly also, because air only is used as a arc coincident medium in the circuit breaker. Okay. Now the air blast circuit breaker, that means what? Then air brake, air blast, both are same. The air blast circuit classified into plain air brake circuit breaker and then arc cut circuit breaker, magnetic blowout type circuit breaker. The air circuit breaker used against very high current. The air circuit breaker, that means used in electrical distribution system. The air circuit breakers consist of operating mechanism which are mainly exposed to the environment. The air circuit breaker protecting for overload, short circuit fault and then earth fault. These three fault we are using the air circuit breaker. That means overload means overcurrent fault or overload fault, short circuit fault and earth fault. Most of the air circuit breakers used in the indoor type substations only. Okay. Now he studied about the advantages and disadvantages of the air circuit breaker or air blast circuit breaker. First advantage, this is the high speed operation compared to what? Only oil circuit breaker. We compared to oil circuit breaker, air circuit breaker is a high speed operation and then ability to withstand frequent switching. Then facility for high speed recloser. Then less maintenance compared to oil circuit breaker. This is the advantages of air circuit breaker or air blast circuit breaker. Then disadvantages of air circuit breakers or air blast circuit breaker: little moisture content prolongs arcing time. Pressure should be checked frequently for frequent operation, and then risk of fire hazard due to over voltage. Then it cannot be used for high voltage operation due to prolonged arcuation. Due to this problem, this type of the circuit breaker cannot be used for high voltage operation in the substations. Dear students, okay, I hope still now you understand the working function of the Sf6 circuit breaker and air brake circuit breaker. Now we can conclusions. Okay, already that means we studied, that means what? 4 types of circuit breaker. High voltage circuit breaker, that means 4 types we studied. The first one is what? That is the oil circuit breaker. Then second one is vacuum circuit breaker. The third one is Sf6 circuit breaker. Then fourth one is the oil, that means air brake circuit breaker. 4 types of circuit breaker only is called as the high voltage circuit breaker. Okay, now you see the conclusion. That means that the circuit breaker is the most essential part of the electrical network, and because it can be used as a protective device as well as the controllable device. Okay, and then from any damage, that means what? That is the overload or over current or under voltage or over voltage or earth fault and then open circuit fault and then short circuit fault, any abnormal, any damage, the circuit breaker is used to protect the equipments or circuit from the power supply during abnormal conditions or faulty conditions. The circuit breaker is helped to detect the fault and the area affected by it. Because that means the circuit breaker initially normally closed position, during fault conditions it becomes NO, NC becomes NO only. So therefore the circuit breaker, that means detect the fault only. Nowadays the vacuum and the SF6 circuit breakers are widely used due to the reliable and fast operation, because both vacuum circuit breaker and SF6 circuit breakers are, that means reliable operation, gives reliable operation and then fast operation also. That's why nowadays we are using vacuum circuit breaker and SF6 circuit breaker. Okay, this is the conclusion of a circuit breaker. Now we can study the risk factors of the all circuit breakers. Okay, now you see the type of circuit breaker, that is oil circuit breaker, that is OCB, and then vacuum circuit breaker VCB, and then SF6 circuit breaker. Three circuit breaker we are taking. What is the risk factor? Oil circuit breaker means high risk, vacuum circuit breaker means less risk only, SF6 circuit breaker very less risk. Previous slide I told, no, that means based on the reliable and this operations, this is the less and very less. That's why the vacuum circuit breaker and SF circuit breaker only nowadays mostly used. This is the wide range used circuit breakers based on the risk factors of the circuit breakers. Dear students, I hope that in the previous lecture video and then in this lecture video you studied about the what are the types of the high voltage circuit breakers and then working function of the circuit breakers, advantages and disadvantages of the circuit breakers, and then classification of circuit breakers, and then from this we have to concluded some factors, and then what are the risk factor for the different types of the circuit breaker. Thank you student for watching this video.